Good evening, Liam Neild here with your MU review. A couple of days late. Obviously, once again, we've had some atrocious technical difficulties that have really been winding me up today. So apologies if I don't seem as perked up as I usually am. But yeah, we've been having lots of trouble with the software that we've been using to, present such a high quality product on the MU reviews and the Doctor Who reviews, and we're working, tirelessly to fix that. And but obviously, the football calendar waits for no man, and United have got another game coming up soon, so I've got to get this review in the books with or without my better half, Matt. So, just to kind of do a quick review of the Man United versus Wolfsburg game, we won 2-1. There you go. Congratulations. No, I'm joking. But no, we did win. It was a fantastic game of football to watch. Bit nerve wracking at times. But yeah, I was very thoroughly impressed and happy with the outcome. Of course, we had a very nervous start in the game. Obviously knowing it was Champions League, knowing all the hubbub that's been going on in the media about how English teams have been underperforming in Europe. So I wasn't quite really that surprised. It was devastating to lose that goal early on, and I really just put my head in my hands and thought, "Oh my God, is this really happening? Are we gonna fight all season to get in the Champions League and then just Liverpool our way out of it in the group stages?" But we really recovered well, and again, I thought that we showed a lot of spine, and I think that's something that we really were lacking at the start of the season. It was something that we really needed a kick up the backside for. Is we didn't seem to have any belief that we could get ourselves back into games once we'd gone behind. But we went behind early on. We were at home. We didn't panic. Took a little while to get our mojo back, to get our rhythm in. But as soon as that happened, we really did look dangerous going forward and fairly solid at the back. I mean, Wolfsburg are a solid team. Second in Bundesliga is nothing to balk at. It's a very difficult league. And I thought that we played very well and did very well to recover and get the 3 points. But we had a couple of worrying signs. Once again, I mean, I want to say his name for something good, but Wayne Rooney's he was flat. He was rubbish again for United today. And I love the man, I really do. He's one of my favourite footballers of all time. But he really needs to buck his ideas up if he wants to stay in this team. I know he's the captain of Manchester United and he's probably not going to get dropped. But if he keeps playing like he did against Wolfsburg, put Ander Herrera in for Christ's sake. He's going to have a bit more attacking impetus at least. But I do have faith that Rooney will come good. I'm not sitting here saying sell him on. He's past it, all that nonsense. He is just in a rut, but he is in a hell of a rut. He's really not performed well all season. So I'm waiting for Wayne Rooney to really kind of show up. Memphis, I was a bit disappointed with. I thought the Champions League seems to have been his stage. He scored in that those two great goals against Bruges to get us in the competition, and then he scored our goal against PSV in that defeat in the first game. So I really was expecting a bit more from him today, but he didn't do so well. Again, young player. Not Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't too different when he was his age. So Memphis I'll give a bit more slack to. But both of them were really underperformed. But I think the fact that we still managed to put in a decent performance without two of our key players, you could argue, shows the depth of the team and shows how we've got talent all over the pitch now. It's not one or two decent players. It's a squad full of good players, or at least a first team full of good players with some decent options off the bench. So we're definitely developing in that direction, and kind of moving away from the negativity. I want to move into the positives. We did win the match, and I really thought, I've been talking about how we needed to show spine in the sense that we needed to show some backbone to get back into games. We needed to, going 1-0 down or going 2-1 down against Swansea, we had 20 minutes to go. We could have continued and gone on and won that game under Ferguson, for example, or just, with a bit more of that mentality, same against PSV. And when we managed to do that, against Southampton and now again against Wolfsburg, we're really showing that spine. But we've started to show spine in a much more tactical sense. One thing that pundits will always say, and to their credit, it's completely correct, is that the best teams in the world have a brilliant spine to their team. They have a solid goalkeeper, they have a really commanding centre back, they have a good playmaking central midfielder, and they have a top quality striker. And I know it's early days for these players. I mean, I'm looking at them, and half of this, four-man, or three-quarters of this four-man team may not have been here at the start of this season if things had gone differently in the summer. But we got David De Gea. Still a miracle that we still have him at the club. But he's absolutely flawless in goal. He really is. He's a fantastic player. But having De Gea, the new and improved and diesel and massive and brilliant and colossal Chris Smalling, who is just fast becoming my favourite Manchester United player, I have to say. He put in another incredible performance today, scoring the goal, which we'll get to in a minute. But he was fantastic today. Bastian Schweinsteiger runs the bloody show every time he's on the pitch. I mean, this is, ready-made quality of the type that Paul Scholes said we needed to get, and I completely agreed with him. And fair play to Louis van Gaal for nicking him off Bayern Munich. He was brilliant once again against Wolfsburg, and he's the kind of character that helps us get back into games. We need that kind of calming influence in the middle of the park to really dictate the play, and he was that for us in this game once again. And then, of course, the young man Anthony Martial. I mean, you can't say enough about him. I mean, you don't want to put too much pressure on the kid, but at this point, I'm sort of thinking, does it even matter? Does he even know what pressure is? I mean, it seems like he's just playing out of his skin every single week. And yeah, I know he didn't score, but if you watch the match, you could just see how much talent that kid has. Completely outshone most of the United players. He outshone Rooney and Depay for sure. And this 19-year-old, he's going to score goals if he plays like that. His attacking sense, his movement, his skill, his power, his pace. He's got everything he needs. And I'm just thinking, if he's 19 now, I mean, we really could have a future Ballon d'Or winner on our hands. Obviously, getting ahead of ourselves a bit there, but at the rate he's going, few years down the line, he's going to be an absolute world beater. But that spine to the team is something that every good team needs, and we've got a spine that not only is solid, but is performing well and is in good form, and that is no small reason for why we're doing as well as we are, top of the Premier League, on the way back in the Champions League, having a decent start to our season. But with that being said, that's more or less covers the game. I mean, the two goals individually, the first one we got fairly lucky, don't know what Caligiuri. I mean, he scored the goal for Wolfsburg, and then he completely dropped a bollock when he tried to. I don't know what he's doing, putting his arm out here. In the penalty box. That's just schoolboy errors. But, fair play. Mata stepped up, put it away. Fine penalty. I've not seen a miss for Man United yet, knock on wood. But, he's fine penalty from him. And Juan Mata, he's my man of the match against Sunderland at the weekend. He originally was he's definitely top 2 players against Southampton. He's had an absolutely unreal start to his season, and is really starting to show the quality that he showed at Chelsea, which made us, want him in the first place and pay 37 million quid for him, and he was fantastic. Really carried the team, got that penalty under a lot of pressure at Old Trafford there. And then in the second half, he provided an absolutely unbelievable assist to Chris Smalling. He had no business flicking that ball with the outside of his left foot 20 feet in the air and then perfectly down into Smalling, who was on the side, who then tucked it away brilliantly. The keeper could have saved that, but Smalling got a perfectly accurate, contact on it, and it really helped. But with all that being said, like I said, that more or less covers the game. We managed to hang on at the end. It did look like we tired towards the end, but 6 games in 18 days, can't really blame the lads for tiring a bit. Got the 3 points, and now onwards and upwards in the Champions League. We really should get out this group. We've got the easiest group of any English team. But on the subject of English teams, I've got a couple of things to say, because to be perfectly honest, yeah, the English teams have been terrible in Europe for the last year or two. It's no like, that's not a new fact. Everybody knows this. That's not speculation. And the fact that coming into the games today, until the 2 victories for the 2 Manchester clubs, well, not today, but what I mean, during the United Wolfsburg game and the City versus Mönchengladbach game, English teams had lost 5 of 6 group matches, and yeah, that's poor. And you just sort of think, oh my god, that that's really difficult to wrap your head around, these English teams that are such, titans of the game, or at least they were, 5-6 years ago, what's happening to them. And I just want to say about that I really hate the people who are, or I hate the opinion that seems to come out when English teams don't perform in Europe. Oh, so much for the Premier League not being the best league in the world. Well, first of all, you've completely misunderstood the emphasis of the statement the Premier League is the best league in the world. We have never claimed, at least not since, Ronaldo transferred to Real Madrid way back in 2009, we have never, ever claimed that the Premier League was home to the best teams in the world. We have claimed, or at least from my standpoint, the claim is that the league is the most entertaining, which it is. I don't think that's arguable. I think it's the most entertaining, wide open, well produced, well put together, and just it's a great spectacle for a season. People who aren't English, who don't support any specific team, can get behind a Premier League game because there's so much excitement and atmosphere and history behind it. Which is why I think that the Premier League is still the best league in the world, regardless of if English teams are doing well in Europe or not. Obviously, yeah, I'm a little worried about the fact that England could go down to having only 3 teams in the Champions League, but, we would not only need all 4 English teams to really bomb out in the Champions League, we'd also need both Spurs and Liverpool to bomb in the Europa League. Could happen, probably will happen, especially for Liverpool. But, we need those teams to do badly as well. And then we also need Italian teams, like they did last season, to make it deep into the competition. That is the perfect storm that will result in English teams losing a space next season. I don't personally see it happening. I think United should, knock on wood again, make it out of the group. I think Chelsea will be fine. I think City can recover and do well. They do have some tests. I think Arsenal are the only ones that are truly fucked, and even then, they who knows what they're going to do. They seem to have Bayern Munich's number, at least in Munich the last couple of seasons. So I mean, I think it's really a lot of doomsday prophesizing, and a lot of people jumping on this bandwagon of English teams aren't good anymore. English team, the Premier League is behind. All this stuff. There are perfectly logical reasons for why English teams don't perform in Europe. Okay, the games themselves are much more competitive week in, week out. Barcelona have maybe 4 or 5 very competitive games each season. They've got to play, home and away. They've got to play Real Madrid, they've got to play Atletico, they've got to play Sevilla, Athletic Bilbao, these kind of high-end European Spanish teams. But apart from that, they're not getting any problems. They can rest players. They can put, Suarez and Messi and Neymar on the bench for a game and still get a result in Spain. You can't do that in England. Not to mention the fact that nearly every European league gets a winter break and England doesn't. We actually play more matches over winter, which is just further proving the fact that English teams make it hard for themselves to succeed in Europe just because of the way the English League is set out. The English League is such a multi-billion-dollar franchise and industry almost that they can't just change things to make the teams do better in Europe. They don't give a rat's ass about how well English teams do in Europe. They just want to make money off the Premier League. And they're going to continue making money off the Premier League if it keeps going up at the rate that it is going up. But obviously, English teams are going to keep suffering. Now, obviously, we've always played over winter break, so you can't really use that as a huge excuse. It does give other teams advantages, but, English teams have managed to win the Champions League before with that exact same schedule. I think that the disparity really comes from the fact that other European leagues and other teams around Europe have stepped up. I remember, the time period in question being, the late 2000s, from 2005 when Liverpool won the Champions League until sort of 2012 when Chelsea won it. It was like the late 70s, early 80s as far as English teams making it to the latter stages of the competition. Obviously, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona stopped United from winning it 3 times in that period, well, they stopped us from winning it twice, but with the one that we did have, we could have won it 3 times, and you look at teams like Chelsea made 2 Champions League finals over that period. Liverpool made 2 Champions League finals over that period. Each of them got a victory, Arsenal even made a Champions League final, and Arsene Wenger's hasn't seen the quarterfinals in almost a decade. So English teams were doing well at that point, but I think that was more to do with the fact that everywhere else in Europe was suffering. I thought Barcelona were the only decent team across Europe at that time. Bayern Munich were rubbish until about 2010, when they made the final out of nowhere. Real Madrid were crap until Ancelotti came in and, kind of bigged them up a bit, and Ronaldo came in and, really kicked them up the backside and got them into the later stages with, Mourinho as well, played a big part in that. But I just think the teams around Europe, like your Atleticos, your Reals, your Barças, your Bayerns, your Dortmunds, they've all stepped it up in the last few years in quality, and English teams maybe just necessarily haven't. I mean, I mentioned already, when players like Ronaldo are transferring from United to Real Madrid, Bale's going from Spurs to Real Madrid, Suarez is going from Liverpool to Barcelona, you can see why these teams are doing better than us, because we're selling them all the best players we have, because, that's just the way that things go. Real Madrid and Barcelona are considered 2 of the biggest teams in the world. But I could go on for hours about this, I really could. But my final point to that is that everyone needs to calm down over this whole English teams are crap in Europe thing, because I just don't think it's necessarily, the evidence is there that we've not performed well, I think there's perfectly rational explanations that don't involve some sort of doomsday scenario where English teams are never going to be Champions League winners ever again. I mean, I personally think that teams like City and Chelsea, and even United, maybe not this year but next year, will have the quality to beat Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich in, one-off games or over 2 legs. Strange things can happen. Arsenal nearly bumped Bayern Munich off a couple of times, having been 2 goals down from the first leg. Things can happen. And, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see until the end of this season or until all the teams have completely flamed out before we, proclaim that it's over for English football as far as winning in Europe. Because United, City, Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool and Spurs are all still in Europe. Yes, they haven't started brilliantly. I mean, don't really know about the Europa League, but yeah, we haven't started great. But I would be very surprised if we didn't have at least 2 English teams in the second round, and I would be surprised if we didn't have at least 1 in the quarters. So I think everyone just needs to calm down, not worry about it. My man of the match, going back to the Wolfsburg game, Chris Smalling. He was a titan in defence, as he always was, except for the first goal, which I actually think was Daley Blind's fault more than his, so I'll give him a pass on that. And his finish, and his run and his just forward endeavour and his presence and everything about him. I love Chris Smalling. I really do. I'm proclaiming my love for Chris Smalling here. He's my man of the match. Good on you, son. I'll see you being the Manchester United captain if Rooney gets dropped. Let's put it that way. But yeah, with that all being said, hopefully we can fix these technical difficulties. Like I said, it really was winding us up. We were sat here for an hour trying to figure out how to record this video, and the software we were using wasn't really cooperating. So I'm going to go on the hunt for some new software, maybe, search for some solutions, figure out a way to get Matt back on here, because I do believe that these videos benefit a lot from having both the Neil brothers on them. And with that being said, hopefully we'll be able to get that sorted out. May ultimately miss the Doctor Who review for this week, in which case we'll just lump it in with the next one, assuming we can get things figured out. Obviously, United are playing a big game against Arsenal on Sunday, a real litmus test for our title credentials, if you ask me. I really have a funny feeling we're going to go there and win, knock on wood, but I have to knock on wood so many times during these videos, but I have a good feeling about that game. And hopefully we'll be able to get some reviews up for that. If not, we've got the international break to kind of get things sorted out. And at very minimum, at bare minimum, we should be able to get things figured out by the time the international break's over. So if you did watch, thanks very much for watching. And I'll see you next time.